Hey bass friends, so we have got another special guest in the studio today. This here is the retro 76 Man Stingray. This is a limited edition reissue of the original 1976 Stingray that my friend and bass benefactor Jeff owns. So he's letting me borrow it so I can talk about it and review it and record with it here on my channel. Very gracious of him to do that, considering how limited edition it is. They only made 100 of these, and I have the privilege of having it in my studio to talk about and record with, which has been so much fun. So we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk specs, then we're going to take a look at the look and feel and craftsmanship, and then we'll also dive into how it sounds and how it plays. So I'll have chapters at the bottom of the video. If you want to skip around, you can feel free to do that. It's no problem. Let's dive in and talk about this bass. So let's start out with some specs. So this was made in 2023. I don't know why they didn't just wait 3 years to do a 50-year anniversary version, but I'm kind of glad they did because I have it here and they didn't wait. The body is made of ash. The neck is made of maple. And not only did they do the classic, sunburst paint job, but they also used a nitro finish, or nitrocellulose lacquer if you want to get technical, which I think is great because nitro actually wears down faster the more you play it. So you'll see older relic vintage guitars and basses that are worn out here and kind of worn out back here, and it looks better the more you use it. And most basses don't use nitro finish anymore because of that. They kind of wanted that paint job to stay forever. But nitro isn't like that, and so I think it looks better relic. So it has one humbucker pickup and it has a 2-band EQ, so these 3 knobs are an active EQ. It has a 3-bolt neck, which is kind of unique, and then also it has some adjustable mute pads down here. But as per usual with Jeff, even though this is a limited edition bass, he still went through and did some modifications to make it his own. He went through and replaced the pick guard because he felt like the white was too much, and so he did a different color white. And then also he added a drop E flat tuner here. So because this is a limited edition bass, you can't just go out and buy one because you want it. You'd have to find someone trying to sell it. I did manage to find a few people who had sold theirs on Reverb, and they went for roughly $3,500 to $4,000 on average. So you might be able to find one for north of that, assuming they retained their value or if they haven't gained value since then, but that's about what you would expect, I would think. You can also just buy a classic 70s edition Stingray. They still make stock Stingrays in this color and pretty much the same design. It's not a 1976 remake or limited edition, and it will have the polyester coating instead of the nitro. It also comes in more colors. But the price tag is still going to run you $3,000 for a stock 70s version. And I think it goes without saying that if you like the sound and look of this limited edition, you're going to like the stock version too. There's no question about it. And also, if you wanted to try a Stingray without spending the big bucks, because the Stingrays are $3,000, you could go with Music Man's budget brand called Sterling. They make more budget-conscious versions of most of their basses, but from what I can tell, they don't have a classic 70s version or 76 version or anything in the Sterling line. So take from that what you will. So let's talk about the look and the feel of the bass. For looks, I mean, they went as true to the original as they could. The sunburst paint job, using the nitro paint on both the body and the neck. Both have nitro on them. So it is a lacquered neck, which you probably can't see on the video, which is not very common in modern basses. I grew up playing a vintage bass with a lacquered neck, so I'm kind of used to it and it doesn't bother me. But a lot of other people kind of get hung up on that. It doesn't slide as easily when you're playing. It's a vintage reissue and it's supposed to be as close to the original as possible, so you would expect that. The bridge is nice. It is a high mass bridge and it just feels like it's gonna last forever. And you wouldn't think it would make a difference, but having a high mass bridge, I've heard it makes a tonal difference. A friend of mine swapped out his stock bridge for a high mass bridge. Not on a Stingray or anything, just on one of his P basses. And he said it made a tonal difference, so I might have to test that out one day on one of my other cheaper basses. Just throw a high mass bridge on there, because apparently it makes a difference. The craftsmanship on this is exactly what you'd expect out of a limited edition or just any one of their higher end instruments. It's just there's nothing wrong. Like, the frets are absolutely perfect. There's a few dings on it just because this isn't a trophy bass for Jeff. This is an instrument that he plays and that he wants to be played. So for him, he's told me that every scratch and every ding is a badge of honor. And I love that about Jeff, because this isn't something that's just going to stick in a trophy and, have it be for bragging rights. Like, this is an instrument that he thought was cool and he wanted to buy. And it being limited edition was just extra fun for him. But let's talk about how the bass works and how this functions. This bass is simple, and I love that about it. There's a volume knob and a 2-band preamp with a bass knob and a treble knob. I think bass down here and treble up here. There's only one pickup, and it's located as a bridge pickup. It's the standard design that all Stingrays are known for. There aren't a lot of options with the knobs to dial in with the bass. There's not a lot of, tone shaping, but you would be mistaken if you believe that this bass isn't able to create some pretty great diverse tones. The tone knobs give you some great options, and the pickup location delivers a really, really great tone. It's just awesome. But also, this bass has another trick up its sleeve. So back in the day, a lot of bassists wanted a really deep, thumpy sound. Not that type punchy sound that most modern bassists are going for. Some of the oldest electric basses used to have foam pads integrated into the bridges or into the bridge covers to make it so that you could get a really thuddy, upright sound. Although, if we're being honest, it doesn't really sound much like an upright at all, but that was the intention. And if a bass didn't have a foam pad built in to the bridge, people would cut out foam and they would stick it underneath the strings right next to the bridge to mute the strings and get it a thuddy sound. For this bass, they stuck with that same tradition with a true remake of the 76 Stingray and the 70s edition's regular Stingrays. The bridge has 4 individually adjustable foam pads that you can use to mute the strings. Got an amazing vintage tone, and I love how that sounds and how I can get that vintage sound without having to worry about, palm muting or, cutting foam to jam under the strings. But it can take a bit to get them in place. Like, these things aren't easy to adjust, so I don't know that I would try to adjust these foam pads like in between songs on a set, because it takes a little while to get them in position. Got vintage sounds for sure. Like, you can groove to all the classics easily enough without having to cut your own foam or do anything special. But this bass can do a lot more than just play old school tunes. It really has a great sound for a lot of applications. Music Man really did such a good job dialing in that 2-band active EQ, and you get some really, really pleasant highs and some punchy lows. And with the way the bass is set up, it's a joy to thumb slap. And it takes distortion really well. can slap this thing for days. And if you think about it, the original was made in 1976. There was a lot of thumb slapping going on at that time. It hadn't really been that long since Larry Graham had burst onto the scene with his slap bass technique. By 1976, you've got Larry, you've got Bootsy Collins, Stanley Clarke, and a bunch of others joining the fray and thumb slapping. It was a big decade for slap, and if you can really tell by the way they did this bass that they wanted to cater to slappers as well as old souls. But even if that treble forward sound for slapping isn't for you, and you want to turn that treble all the way down, you still get a tone that has some clear definition to it. It puts the treble into the background and brings that bassy goodness to the front, but there's still some treble there to give it some definition with the treble knob all the way off. And, the bass just becomes like a warm hug, like a thick blanket on a rainy afternoon. It's a really nice tone. It really does sound good no matter what you do to the EQ, which isn't something I can say for other basses I've owned. And even when you max out that bass and treble all the way and just give it everything you've got, you get a really nice bass boost, you get a really defined highs, and you get a mid-growl from the bridge pickup location. And it's the more I play it, the more I like the way it sounds. And if you've watched any of my videos, you know that I'm relatively new to the whole Music Man thing, and I've never really seen any reason to get a Music Man over any other bass. But I have to say, there are some unique things about this bass that I just don't see happening on other basses from other makers. There is some kind of special secret sauce or ineffable quality going on with the Stingrays. And I'm starting to see why so many bassists have used them throughout the years. This thing just plays and sounds great. I don't think there's a bad sound to be had with it anywhere. And no matter what I've done to the tone knob, it still sounds good. It's got that vintage look and feel. It's got that sound, but it also still works for any modern use case. You can thumb slap with it. You can play anything you want with it, and it sounds good. I like it. I like this bass a lot. I totally get the appeal of owning not only a limited edition version of a Stingray. This was a pivotal bass when it came out and has been heard on many, many great recordings and tours since 1976. But I also just get the appeal of the Stingray in general. I feel like I've been sleeping on these things, honestly. I've passed on Music Man for a long time because of this confounded pickguard. It just looks like a toilet seat. I don't understand what they were thinking when they decided on this. But I'm starting to realize that what the Stingray gets right more than makes up for whatever's going on with this pickguard. I don't know if I'd call myself a Music Man convert at this point, but I'd play this toilet seat bass any day and every day. And I could definitely see myself owning a Stingray at some point in my life, if my finances ever allow. Obviously not this one because, it's a limited edition and all that, but, this is a great bass. It's been so fun to play. It's so awesome. So thanks again, Jeff, for lending me this bass. I know it was probably a big step to lend out a limited edition one to me. I've had an awesome time playing with it and recording with it. I hope this little review helps all my fellow bassists out there to recognize what is unique about this bass and why it continues to be such a popular bass with so many bassists for so many years. So I hope you enjoyed. If you did, do me a favor and tap the like button for the algorithm. And let me know in the comments what you think, what you want to see next, and what you think of the Stingrays and the pickguard and everything, What are your opinions? Do you think it's worth having a true, Music Man Stingray, or would you get a Sterling one? Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Thanks, guys, and we'll see you in the next one.